Shalom, welcome back. So, prepositions is on the list of the menu of learning biblical Hebrew. Alright, so what do we want to learn about prepositions? Well, let's understand some very important parts about prepositions. Well, number one, there are two things that we have to understand about prepositions. We have to understand they are called separable prepositions and the inseparable prepositions. Alright? The separable prepositions are exactly what they are. They stay by themselves, and they are regarded as a word by themselves. Okay. The inseparable, we have to put them next to words. We just have to attach them, just like we did with the hey article. Okay. So, if we look at here, we'll get some simple prepositions here. We'll get their meanings here. So el means to, al is upon, and mean is from. And we're only giving some of the simplicities of this. Now, when we're adding a preposition to a noun, it's going to depend upon what the noun is. So let's say the noun is a proper noun. So we'll use Moshe. Moshe, we know, is a definite noun by itself, so we don't need anything to make it definite. It's definite on its own accord. However, if we need a definite article, then we will add it to the noun, for example, here. So now we have al hamayim. So here we had el Moshe, to Moshe, or unto Moshe, and al hamayim, upon the water. Okay, so you can see the preposition, the definite article, and then of course the noun. And mean only has one ability, and that one ability is basically that mean can only be used with a definite preposition. Okay, mean is only used with definite prepositions. Whenever we see mean is used as an inseparable, which is what we're going to see here, this is only going to be used when we have a noun that is indefinite. For example, with the word me'eretz. Me'eretz, from a land. If I wanted to make this definite, we would change this ma'artzi, from my land. So now we have the definite article here. We have our noun and we have mem. Okay? The other thing mem is used with is we have if we use the name, okay? For example, me'adam, from Adam, okay? So with this, we can have a few things happen here. Number one, we can have the definite article with our noun, and we have a separate preposition. When we're using the inseparable preposition, this is only going to be used with proper nouns, like me'adam. Or when we're using an indefinite noun, for example, me'eretz, or if we're using a noun with the noun preposition, with the noun, pronoun here, such as me'ami, from a people. Okay? So this is the only way we're going to use this specific inseparable preposition. You're never going to use this like this. I'm going to give you a false example. You're never going to use this because it's not correct grammatically. If you were to say me haaretz, okay, you have to understand grammatically this is not even correct. Okay, so me haaretz does not exist. Mem is only used, and we'll list it here, with the pronoun that is possessive attached to a noun. So if we have a pronoun that's possessive and attached to a noun, that is how mem is used. If we have an indefinite noun, that is the secondary by which it's used. And of course, lastly, if we have a proper noun. That's the only way this mem is ever going to be used. Outside of this, we have to understand he no longer is a part of the game that we're going to be playing here with these. And why is this so important? Because we have to memorize grammatically how these things are used. Okay, so the lamed. If the lamed bet or the kaf are used, lamed is going to mean to, bet is going to mean in. Now there's more meanings for the bet. We're just using one meaning, so we make it simple. And the kaf is like. Okay? When we're adding this to a noun, okay, it all depends on if the noun's going to stay indefinite. So if the noun's going to stay indefinite, we're going to keep the indefinite state of the noun just as it is. So if we wanted to say in a land, we say be'eretz. Okay? If we're going to say, now, no, we have to understand the word la versus el, okay? Let's define this real quick. El is only used with verbs of movement and verbs of speech. So that means if we use the word spoke, said, tell, swore, those are verbs of speech. Turned, went, left, walked, traveled, those are verbs of movement. So those verbs are always going to use el. After that, we have la. Okay? So la, in this case, if we were going to say, he did it to hurt. Okay? So if you want to use the infinitive form, el is used with infinitive verbs. Okay? Like for example, la avod. Okay? La avod to work. Alright? That's one form of which the lamed is used for infinitive verbs. Okay? Another form by which we find the lamed, okay, is the lamed is going to be added to just generic nouns. Okay? So if we were going to say, help me, let's add the other word for, because this is also another preposition that's used. So here we can have a proper noun, for example, like Moshe. So, hu asa, he did it, la Moshe, for Moshe. Now, you said hu asa, la Moshe, you could say he did it to Moshe. So, it depends on the context, but understand the fact that if you're utilizing la, Moshe is definite, okay, and therefore you have it. So, you have definite nouns, okay? But we're going to talk about here the proper first. Okay, so this is one, this is two. Definite nouns are going to be different, okay? If I said, hu asa la'eved, he did it to a servant, okay? We have to change the shawah into the vowel, okay? So eved, here's eved. Eved is servant, okay? So what are we doing? Okay, we're basically saying this. We're saying that lamed plus ha, which is what we normally use for the indefinite article, right? And then we're saying plus the word eved. Alright? So when we add them together, what? Do you think we get la ha'eved? No, we don't. The hey disappears when the equation of adding is used. And the only thing that remains is the vowel. Okay? So basically when we're saying the lamed preposition plus the definite article plus evid equals la-evid. And so that means the hey disappears, but only the vowel remains to show that this is definite. And so how can you tell if you have a definite preposition versus an indefinite preposition? It's always going to be based upon the vowel. So whether the vowel is a regular lamed, then we're saying this is for a servant. If I change the vowel to become a la, now I have to make the indefinite article become for the servant. Okay? And you can see the differentiation is simply based upon whether there's a patach or whether there's a shwa. If there's a shwa, then I have to make this an indefinite because it's an indefinite noun. If I make this a patach, then I have to get rid of my indefinite article and I have to make this a definite noun by adding the definite article. Okay? The same thing goes to here. Ba'aretz is in a land. If I make this a definite article, then I have to say Ba'aretz, okay, which now has to be in the land. So the distinguishing difference between the definite and indefinite is going to be the vowel. Now we have to remember, if you go back and look at the vowel, what happens when we have a guttural, okay? We remember if we have the guttural, then the vowel changes here, and this becomes a kamatz. And here, the aleph also takes the kamatz, and then we have the rest of the word eretz. Haaretz, okay? So if you forgot this, go back to the hey definite article video and look at that so that you can remember what happened here as to why that vowel changed and what the reason for that is. So we have to just think about the fact of if we have the shwa, it's indefinite. If it's got a vowel, it's definite, okay? And the same thing with like, okay? If I wanted to say, for example, like Moshe, right? Well, I know that Moshe is a definite noun, so it doesn't need the article. This makes it definite. So you know it's definite, okay? However, if I want to say ke'even, like a stone, I know that stone is indefinite, okay? So now I have to translate it like it is, like a stone. So I know that when I'm doing this, I'm saying that like, as we see down here, that we look at this like Evid, like a stone, that I'm talking about the fact that this is indefinite, and I also know this is indefinite, so I have to translate it in the indefinite state, like a stone. But if I make this an right, and because I know this is the aleph, I'm going to have to make this a kamatz, ka'avin. So now this is not a, this becomes the, like the stone, alright? So it's very important that we understand the differentiation between the two of these things so that we can see the fact that when we're dealing with the fact of these prepositions, that we remember that if lamed, bet, mem, and kaf are used, we have to remember the laws for mem. That these are only going to be utilized with a definite noun, a noun with a pronoun ending, or it's going to be used with an indefinite noun. If it has a definite article, we have to switch to this use. Okay? The kaf, the bet, and the lamed, it's only going to be, if it's definite, the vowel will be placed under the lamed, the bet, and the kaf. If it's indefinite, the shwa remains here. Okay? So this teaches us how the prepositions of the inseparable are used and how the prepositions that are separable are used. And this helps us understand the basics of learning this part of Biblical Hebrew. And we'll see you next time as we go over more of Biblical Hebrew You're the other one. I'll see you around.